Today, race drivers have to be more than just good on the track. They also have to be good off the track, especially dealing with the media. To find out what the media looks for, we turn to the experts, the Speed TV announce team.
In terms of dealing with the media, I think it's important that you be personable, that you be presentable, and that you are polite with people. It doesn't mean you have to kiss ass, but you just, have to show some interest in people that want to show interest in you.
I think the key for any young driver when you're trying to have a good relationship with anyone in the media, whether it's TV or print, is to certainly make yourself accessible. You have to realize that you think you have a busy weekend, but for example, here at the Rolex 24-hour race, we've got 60-odd cars in the race, sometimes 5 drivers in a car, so there's 200 to 300 drivers that you're trying to catch up with. So the important thing is to have a good story and make sure it's succinct, but try and feed some of the information to the media, making it a little bit easier for them.
You can't be concerned about walking up and talking to a journalist, or certainly a television journalist. You introduce yourselves. We're always looking for stories, and if you've got a good story to tell and you get to know us and we get to know you, you're much more likely to get coverage, and that's what it's all about. It's about being smart in this business of racing.
Typically, all of us broadcasters are walking around the garage trying to find stories, and what we want to do is know you, know what you've done, learn your personality, and then we can really tell that story a lot better.
Make sure they know who you are, what your name is, where you came from, and what your background is, because if you make it easier for them, then there's a very good chance that your name will be at the forefront of their minds, and that's one of the secret little tricks that you can use. Don't be a problem, don't be a pest, but certainly make sure you know that the media know who you are and what you're all about.
The thing that I try to impress on young drivers is that journalists are human beings too, and naturally you're more interested in talking about people that you like. So I think it behooves a young driver to do everything he can to make getting to know him or her as easy as possible. Things like a website. This is the electronic age. If I can go to someplace really quickly and find out about you, that makes my job easier. I'm more inclined to write about you or talk about you or get to know you well enough to be able to speak about you publicly. So I would definitely recommend a website. Doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't need elaborate photography and bells and whistles. What it needs to have is current, accurate information about the individual driver, your background, what you've done, what your goals are, and so forth.
I think when it comes time to do interviews for young drivers, one of the things that a lot of people panic about is that little red light that comes on the camera. But the thing that you've got to realize is you're just having a conversation with that journalist that's there. The camera, it's almost like a third person standing there. Don't pay attention to it. Don't worry about it. Just have a conversation with the reporter that's talking to you.
But for a young driver, sometimes you're intimidated, you might be a little bit shy, so you've kind of got to get out of that shell. How do you do it? Well, you need to try and practice, and the simplest thing is to take a video camera, have your brother or someone or family member even interview you at home until you get more comfortable in front of the camera, and then gradually your personality should start to come out.
It's very difficult to stand in front of a camera, have somebody asking you questions and trying to say exactly what you think is important. So the best thing to do is think about that stuff before the weekend, what you might want to say before the race, what you might want to say after the race. So you got to have a plan. Just like before they go out on the racetrack and the things you want to do with your race car to make it faster, make sure you have a plan about how to tell that story when someone puts a camera in front of you.
One thing that I do think is important to young athletes, though, is that you think hard about why you do what you do. Because that's always the first question you're going to be asked is, why do you do this? So have a reason. Don't just say, well, I just like it, or, I like to go fast. What moves your soul? What makes this satisfying for you? Think about the kinds of questions that you're likely to get asked and have good answers for them at hand. I think it's also important to differentiate yourself to someone from the media. There's thousands of aspiring young drivers out there. What is it about you that makes you different? Maybe it's something entirely away from the racetrack. Maybe you were a spelling bee champion or good at some other sports, or have some really eclectic hobby. Maybe you play a musical instrument. Maybe you're a wonderful gourmet chef. Something like that a journalist can use as a hook that makes you stand out from the crowd a little bit, that this guy's worth paying attention to because he's an interesting individual.
These days, whether it be IndyCar, Formula One, sports cars, NASCAR, team owners, sponsors are looking for that complete package. It's perhaps one of the reasons why Roger Penske signed AJ Allmendinger. AJ is the complete package. He gets it done out on the track and he gets it done here with the media and with the sponsors.
Well, sponsors make the world of racing go around, the wheels of racing, so to speak. It's a business. You know, a lot of people will talk about the sport, but we all know that motorsports is a business, and you want to sell those sponsorships that help you get there, and that's great. It's understandable. That's marketing. But be careful about the way you do it. Work your sponsors into a conversation. Don't just list them off. Nobody wants to hear it. Producers in the truck get upset about that. Figure out a way to work it in nice and smooth without running down a long list.
And you know, it's always going to be awkward, particularly if you have a lot of sponsors. So I think once again, it's used to be a little premeditated. Think about your sponsor and how what your sponsor wants to get across can impact the people out there. Darrell Waltrip has always been very good at that. When he was driving the Tide car, you know, he would say something afterwards like, well, you know, today was a bad memory that even Tide couldn't wash away. You know, something like that. You know, that's a way to get it in there. But yeah, it's become a cliche that guys just spit out this long retinue of sponsors, and it's usually not going to get on the air simply because, you know, that's not what we do. We want to hear what the driver thinks, and, you know, the sponsorship will work its way in naturally.
As we look at it, whether you're racing at the 24 Hours Daytona, the Eyes Out IndyCar Series, down to F2000 and go-karts, safe is absolutely fast because you need to be able to get to the end of the race. You need to be able to plan accordingly from the end of the race on backwards to the front to be able to finish up in the lead. So that's absolutely how we look at it.